when is the time that a person creates the most amount of demons? Wasting seed. A typical avera, a typical sin that a person makes, usually makes one. Makes one sin, makes one demon. The problem with wasting seed for men is that there's many sins being made, because each seed is a sin of its own. It's an independent sin of its own. It's an independent demon of its own that's created. Which means that each time a man wastes seed, he's literally creating hundreds of millions of them. Hundreds of millions of them. So, it's obviously a bad idea to do, but no one talks about it. Now, in the Gemara, Masechet Nida, page 16b, he says that each time seed leaves the organ of the member of a male, an angel is appointed over the seed, and the angel's name is Laila. And this angel takes this drop and brings it to Hashem. To Hashem. What will be with this seed? What will be with this seed? Is it going to be rich? Is it going to be poor? Is it going to be alive? Is it going to die? Is it going to make it? Is it not going to make it? Rich, tall, and so on and so forth. What's going to be, Master of the Universe? The problem is, when a man wastes the seed, the angel can't do the same thing. Why? The man already decided with the fate of the seed, to kill it. Problem is that the seed itself already has something in it. It's already a being. So each one of these seeds creates a being. It's an incomplete being. It's a demon. And now that demon is actually considered his son. And that demon is telling him, Abba, how come you didn't give me a body? 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 And we've talked about this many times. The scary aspect of it, where literally, that as the Rambam says in Mishneh Torah Ilchot Deot, that a person literally needs to understand that each seed has a potential for good and evil. Each seed has the potential to be the Mashiach, or it could be Hitler. Each seed. By you deciding what that this is going to be wasted, Shem Erachem, you've decided this is going to be Hitler. You've decided the fate for it. But Hitler, for you, not for anyone else. For you, not for anyone else, Shem Erachem. Him and 100 million of his friends. I'm going to tell you something I never said before. About the same subject. The Or HaChaim says that if at the time of intimacy between a husband and a wife, if there are pure thoughts in the mind of the wife and the mind of the husband, this creates that the shoresh of the neshama of whatever comes out, the seed that Laila brings to Hashem, and Hashem says, okay, this one will live. This one will be twins. This one will be a baby that's a boy or a girl, whatever. Because of the pure thoughts of the parents during the act, not before. Not that he went to Shachrit and Mincha and he read Shas all day. No. During the act itself, he's thinking about Hashem. Because in Judaism and the Torah, the intimacy between a man and a woman is holy. It's not like the Goyim, where they think it's filthy and disgusting. In Judaism, the intimacy between a husband and a wife is a holy event. If you make it into a holy event. So if the thoughts during that time are holy. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says the Shoresh HaNeshama will be pure. That Neshama that succeeds, Hashem says, give this one potential of being Mashiach. Unlimited. Why? The thoughts of the husband, the thoughts of the wife were pure during the most difficult time, you can say. Otherwise, the Or HaChaim says, it can be an evil soul that would have major difficulty to do tshuva. Meaning, as a Jew, you're even expected to control your thoughts during the time that you're intimate with your wife or husband. It's not just being good thoughts when you're at Beit Knesset or when you're praying to Hashem. Even during a time of intimacy. An evil soul can get to such a point where it can be created in a way that it's difficult for it to do tshuva. Already predestined, this is a soul that's one of the Gilgulim of Erev Rav. Doesn't mean it can't do tshuva. It's going to have a difficult journey to do tshuva. Sometimes you see certain people, you tell them the truth 500 times, they don't listen. 501, they're going to listen. Why? What was the one difference? Nothing. 500, you have to break the stone. 500, you have to break the stone. Some people are like that. An evil soul, just like it's given extra power from Shamayim, in order for it to create evil, it's also given extra power to beat the Yetzirah too. So it's still measure for measure. It's not that Hashem, ties its hand behind its back. It's that He gives it a lot of power on both ends. A lot of power to make evil, a lot of power to make good. The same neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu could have literally been the complete Bilam. And if it beats the Yetzirah, this evil soul, it can attain the highest levels of Kedusha. So now heroes are going to say, okay, so I might as well think bad thoughts, give my kid a chance to be Moshe Rabbeinu. Please, don't do him any favors. Like somebody said this story one time by Rav Shteynman, that a person came to him and asked him to borrow some money. He had life saving. He said, listen, I'll give you money. Gave him 100,000 shekels. And whatever, the shtar was, you're supposed to give it back to him in 6 months. Years passed, he never gave it to him. Rav Shteynman, you borrowed money from Gdol Ador, you didn't pay it back. He didn't pay it back. 5 years later, he comes and he wants to give him the money back. Oh no, don't worry, you don't have to give it. You don't owe me anything. What do you mean? I'm sorry, I was supposed to give you 4.5 years ago and give it to you now. No. After I saw that you didn't give it back to me after 6 months, I figured you can't give it back to me, so I decided already, it's a present. Keep it, so it's not an avirah, so it's not a sin. I don't want to shemerchem what's going to happen when I have a sin. That's a holy person. So the very same Rav Shteynman, there was a guy that plenty of times people went against him. Anyone that's a ish emet, people go against him. So it was a guy that went against Rav Shteynman and Mamash started embarrassing him. Later on, he realized that he made a mistake. And he came to apologize to Rav Shteynman. Came to apologize. I'm sorry, I did da. Rav Shteynman goes, no, chas v'shalom, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Ashrecha, you did me a big chesed. It's good for me. Thank you. The guy is shocked. He's thinking that he's going to get it on the head, really what he deserves. Instead, Gdol Ador is telling him, thank you for embarrassing me. He doesn't know what to do to himself. He's okay, Kvod Rav, okay. And he starts turning around and walking away. He goes, oh, and by the way, before you go, oh, yeah, Kvod Rav, just one thing. You did me a favor, Baruch Hashem. Just don't do the same favor for anybody else. For me, I know it's a favor for me. But don't try the same favor for anybody else. So don't make this future baby any favors. Now the biggest chidush I just learned recently. Every single time we've talked about wasting seed, we've talked about men. Because men have seed. And men have a problem. The Rambam calls it the most difficult thing to do tshuva for. Why? Because it's more addictive than any drug. Once a person is addicted to wasting seed, whether it's by himself or with somebody, it doesn't make a difference. It's very, very difficult to overcome this addiction. But according to the Ben Ish Chai, Alav Shalom, he says that according to Kabbalah, when a woman has, in essence, Mechila mikfotchem, an orgasm, whether it's in her dreams, and in essence, on purpose, unintentional, or so on, she's also making demons. If it's not used for the purpose of recreation, it's in essence almost the same level as a man. It's not the same level because it's not actual seed, but according to the Kabbalah, Ben Ish Chai says it also creates bad spirits. There's no free lunch. No free lunch. Now, the Shulchan Aruch calls wasting seed for a man the biggest sin in the entire Torah. So there's no machloket, there's no debate of whether it's allowed or not allowed. Like some people think that it's okay, it's not a big deal since everybody does it. For some reason, people think that just because everyone's a Nazi, it's okay to be a Nazi. Just because everybody's does bad things, it's okay to make bad things. This is completely illogical. Just because the vast majority in the world don't make a lot of money, does that mean you're not going to make a lot of money? No, you're still going to try to make $1 million. Why? Because you want to do good. So you can't look at all the bad and say, oh, because everybody else is bad, it's okay for me to be bad too. No, Torah says it's not allowed. Not allowed to such a point that a person literally is self-destructing. And we've talked about it extensively. I just want to cover some of the things that we didn't talk about before. So these mazikin, these incomplete beings, are created mostly during such an act, both for men and women. Both for men and women. Which means that modesty and watching yourself as far as how you use the tools that Hashem gave you, if you use them for kedusha, for holiness, you have nothing to worry about. Why? Good is going to come out of it. If you're thinking that you and the animal should be able to behave the same way, animal works on instinct and you're going to work off of instinct, just because you feel like doing it, you're going to do it, then you should know that you're going to have a lot of new friends. You're going to have a lot of new friends. They're not really your friends, though. I'll give you a last thing. Maybe it'll scare you enough. If it didn't scare you yet, I'll give you scare you enough a little bit. All right, we're already in it. Might as well. Go all in. Go all in. The Rabbi Ftaya, Allah Shalom, used to deal with these things. There's something called a דיבוק. A דיבוק is when one of these spirits goes into a human being. A person walks around, they do something, the spirit goes into them and takes control over the body. This is like the le'avdil, but it's like the movie Exorcism or Exorcist or something like that. It was made 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's a real thing. A דיבוק is a real thing. It's not so common today, but it used to happen very often, 100 years ago and more. And there were only mekubalim, holy people like Rabbi Ftaya, the Avat Chaim, and people that were mamash experts in this specific field were able to even deal with these things. So Rabbi Ftaya actually wrote a whole book about his different conversations with these things. So one of the times that he actually talked to a person that was controlled by someone, you would find out what's happening in the next world. What do they see? Who's next to them? Different conversations. Scary as can be. It's scarier than the shiur b'gehenom. Scary, mamash, unbelievably. I'm not going to give you all the details. People think that this world is the real world. They have no idea. So now one time he sees there's a poor woman that was taken over by some person. She doesn't know who it is. And this person is torturing her. It's not a person, it's a demon. But the spirit took over her body and he's torturing her. How is he torturing her? He's having sex with her. He's in essence raping her. Imagine non-stop. This is for a woman, this is like the night, better off go to Gehenom. Why? This woman was, he asked her, how did you have a right? How did you have a right to get into this woman? She said, tzadikah. She covers her hair with a scarf, she's modest, she prays, she's a good woman. How do you have a right to get into her? What'd you do? Oh, one time, she got upset at her husband, and she threw something. And the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says, when somebody takes something, he's in the middle of anger, he throws something, it's in essence like he's giving korban to the Satan himself. Because anger is avodah zarah. What avodah zarah? You're worshipping the Satan himself. How do you actually exercise it? By breaking something during anger. You break something during anger, you threw a remote across the room, you threw your phone, you threw the kid, you threw the table, you did something, Mama, is considered avodah zarah, tehud, Shem Erachem, Satan himself. All of us have to do tshuva after the shiur. So now, Rabotai, he says one time she got tzadikah, she goes to Beit Knesset, kisui rosh, modest, the dress is this big, everything is good. But one time she made a sin, worse sin. What? She threw something after she got upset at her husband. She threw something, that gave me the right to enter. Now this specific spirit wasn't a normal one. Why? Because usually Rabbi Yehuda would be able to say a few holy names, and they would run away, these things, they'd leave. Sometimes it's a few hours, a few days, a month. This one, nothing works. He says this one is something different. This one is unbelievable. This one is Shem Erachem. This thing is too powerful. So now he starts asking him, who are you? What's your real name? Where were you before this? Where were you in the world? He doesn't want to tell him. And they fight. And eventually he says, who is this? Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi is one of the worst human beings that ever lived in history. He was a false Mashiach a few hundred years ago. But before he became a false Mashiach, he was a big Mekubal. He was a big Talmid Chacham. Huge Talmid Chacham. He wasn't an idiot. He was Gdol Ador. Went crazy, Shem Erachem. Now, after he found out who he was, he started asking him other questions. What's happening to him? He says, listen, I'm only here because I'm running away from all the Malachei Chabalah that Hashem sends to beat me every day as a punishment for what I did. They torture me, they beat me, Hashem Erachem. So one time, and I'm going to let you guys go with this story because it's scary enough, especially for men. He asked him, how do you look? How do you look now? He goes, oh, the way I look, I'm full of hair, like a wolf. Why? Because of all the sex crimes that I made during my life, Hashem made me disgusting. There's hair coming out of every place, out of every pore, disgusting and sweaty and gooey and gross and naked. Said him. And he kept asking him questions, having much conversation. And then he stops talking. Like Rabbi Yehuda is talking to him. He doesn't talk back. But he sees that the woman is going to she's convulsing and she's changing, like something is happening, but he's not answering for a while. Eventually he starts hearing the voice again. He says, why don't you talk to me? Why don't you respond? He goes, I'm dealing with an enormous amount of pain right now. He goes, why? Because one of the angels, one of the Malachei Chabalah just came and ripped off my testicles. People think that the shiur about Gehenom is everything that's there. It gets much worse. The point I'm trying to make, why did all of this happen to these people? Because of sex crimes. Let me know what you think, and make sure to share it, because other people need to learn too.